All right, so on this example, we're going to use the declining balance method using 200%. And so for this one, we have to figure out how much we're going to depreciate each year or what percent we will use. This goes back to that previous example, so we're going to take the 200% and divide it by 5, which was our useful life, 5 years, and that will be 40% per year. Now I'm going to label the chart real quick. And this is the years and begin. It's our annual depreciation amount in the middle. And then on this one, book value. So we're going to start with our book value. In this case, our book value was $10,257. And remember, we're going to round our numbers to whole numbers as we work our way through. We are going to calculate 5 years for this one. All right, so we start with our initial book value of $10,257, and we multiply it by 40% in decimal form, and that gives us $4,103. Now I'm rounding as I go, and then I subtract that from my book value. My book value is kind of off up there. So I subtract 4,103 from the 10,257, and that gives me now a new book value for year 1 of 6,154. Now, this is an accelerated method. You can see that we reduced it a lot with this 40% and getting the 4,103. On the next calculation, we're going to use 6,154 and multiply that times the 0.4, which is 40% in decimal form. So that will be $2,462. And then we subtract that from the book value for year 1. So we're subtracting that from 6,154, and that will be 3,692. Now remember, you can pause this and do all your calculations and then check it back by letting it play so that you can try this yourself. And then this one's 3,692 times our 0.4, because that's our 40%. That's going to be 1,477. And we subtract that from 3,692. So 2,215 is our book value at the end of year 3. So we take that number, the 2,215, multiply it by our percent again, and that is going to be $886. And we subtract that from the 2,215, and that gives us $1,329. And so now we're at that for the end of year 4. And then remember, we cannot go below 800. So we're going to be limited to the difference between the 1,329 and the 800. And let's see what happens here on this last line when we calculate the 1,329 times 0.4. It's okay to be above your book value, but not below. And this comes out as 532, which is really not off very much. We're limited on this one to 500. Okay, let me fit this in here somehow. Okay, 529, because that's the difference between 1,329 and 800. You just subtract those. So we can't actually depreciate the full amount. We're really only off by $3 on this one. And so we will depreciate $529 for year 5 and end up at our salvage value of 800. All right, so that's it for that one. And now this one, Dr. Hyde purchased a set of heavy-duty lead-lined cabinets for his laboratory for $3,700. The cabinets are classified as office furniture and will have a salvage value of $850. What will the amount of depreciation be for the third year using the maker's method? Well, if we're using the maker's method, then we don't really care about the salvage value because we depreciate all the way to zero. And so the cabinets are classified as office furniture. So if you refer back to your maker's chart, which I don't think I'll scroll all the way back to the maker's chart because what one? Well, maybe. So we're looking for office furniture. I'm going to scroll back to the maker's chart. I started out with a fresh one here. So office furniture is in the 7-year category. And so we are looking for year 3, right, of that 7-year category, which would be 1749. Okay, so that is the number that we're going to use when we get back to the slide. So for year 3, and remember you use this 3,700 for every single calculation. We're going to multiply it by the 0.1749 because 17.49% is the year 3 depreciation amount, or depreciation percent, not the amount. And so we multiply that and end up with $647, and that's how much we can depreciate, right? Because it was the amount of depreciation for the third year. And so for the makers, it strictly comes from the chart, and you always multiply by the basis or the book value, the original book value. Okay. This is the last one, and this is a maker's depreciation that we're going to do on this. So we're going to have our begin mode again. That's also the number of years. That's our annual depreciation amount. Now, referring back to that chart, which I don't think I'll scroll back to at this time, but I'll write down all the percents from that. So this is a drum set. Jaden bought a new drum set for $1,500, and my grandson's name is Jaden. If according to the IRS, drums are classified the same as office machinery, now remember the one before was office equipment, complete a depreciation schedule using the maker's method. And in this one, it's a 5-year recovery period. So we're going to use the percents that come from the 5-year. But you actually figure depreciation for 6 years when it's a 5-year recovery. And we multiply by the $1,500 every single time. So every time it will be the 1,500, because if you add up your percents, they equal 100. We depreciate this out completely to 0. So we have to use the 1,500 every time to make it to the 0 at the right place, which is at the end of year 6. The first percent is 20%, so that's going to be 0.2. And then the next one is going to be 32%, so 0.32, 19.2%, so 0.192. You can drop that 0 that's at the end. These two categories are both 11.52%, year 4 and year 5. And then the last one is 5.76, so 0.0576. Okay, and then just go through and calculate each one. I'm actually going to do all the calculating for the amount of depreciation first. So we've got 300, then 480. This one's 288 and 173 twice. And then the last year is $86. Okay, and then we just subtract each of those depreciation amounts from the 1500, so that reduces our book value year by year. So the first year we are at 1200, and then 720. The next year is 432, and then 259, 86. I'll scoot that in a little more. And then last is 0. When you get to that very last year, if you're off by, say, $1 or something, that's just to do with rounding. You shouldn't really be off more than that. And you just have to remember on makers that you use the original book value or the basis for every single calculation. And if not, you're going to get very confused. All right. So that is the end of depreciation.